Could the rules behind your car's fuel economy be hiding a big secret? Could they be illegal? Duffy is claiming that the Biden-era fuel economy standards were unlawful and kicked off a major overhaul. Now, this move could lower car prices and give you more options, but what does it mean for your wallet and your drive? Now, let's dive into this and uncover the details of this heated debate because it's going to be interesting and why it's a game changer and what's at stake for every driver. Share this with anyone who's ever fueled up or plugged in. It's a conversation starter you don't want to miss. Here's what's happening with the fuel economy showdown. The Trump administration is shaking up the corporate average fuel economy. You may have heard of it before. I call it the CAFE standard, C-A-F-E, which sets miles per gallon or MPG targets for automakers, and they get fined if they don't make that standard. In June of 2025, Duffy announced that the Biden's rules required an average of 50 miles per gallon for light-duty vehicles by 2031. He says that's illegal. Those standards, finalized in 2024, demanded 2% annual efficiency gains for cars starting in 2027 and light-duty trucks from 2029, banking on a surge in electric vehicles. Duffy's new interpretive law, quote, resetting the corporate average fuel economy program, doesn't change standards yet, but it empowers the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, or NHTSA, to revise them soon, and we'll be watching. It argues that the Biden team violated federal law by factoring EVs into the CAFE calculations, something banned under the Energy Policy and Conservation Act of 1975 and the Energy Independence and Security Act of 2007. Now it's going to get interesting. Adding fuel to the fire, Senate Republicans proposed scrapping fines for automakers missing the CAFE targets with gasoline-powered vehicles, part of its June 2025 tax bill. These moves aim to ease burdens on car makers and shift away from EV-heavy policies, which they're doing, but they're sparking fierce arguments about cost, choice, and environmental impact. Why are these rules called illegal? At the heart of Duffy's claim is how Biden's CAFE standards were set. Federal law requires NHTSA to establish, quote, maximum feasible MPG goals for gasoline-powered vehicles, weighing technology, cost, and energy savings. But it explicitly prohibits counting electric vehicles, classified as, quote, dedicated alternative fuel vehicles, into these calculations. Biden's rules, Duffy argues, assumed massive EV growth, inflating fuel efficiency targets and effectively mandating more EVs. This raised costs for automakers who had to invest heavily in electric models or face heavy fines, even though they took a loss in every single one they made. Supported by the Alliance for Automotive Innovation, Duffy says this approach broke statutory limits, making the standards unlawful. Major automakers like General Motors, Ford, and Stellantis agree, arguing Biden's targets were unrealistic and forced them to prioritize EVs over popular gasoline-powered SUVs and trucks. The Trump administration claims resetting CAFE will cut manufacturers' costs, make cars more affordable, and let you choose what to drive, whether it's gas, hybrid, or electric. Biden had some ambitious plans. Considering what Biden's rules had demanded, it set that June 2024, they aimed for 50.4 miles to the gallon for light-duty vehicles by 2031, saving 64 billion gallons of gas and cutting 659 million metric tons of emissions by 2050. Heavy-duty pickups and vans face tougher goals with 10% yearly efficiency jumps from 2030 to 2032. These standards were part of a push to halve vehicle emissions by 2032, with EVs expected to dominate new car sales, which it never did, and it never can because the grid can't even support it. But that's a whole other subject. Biden's team argued that the rules would save drivers about $600 per vehicle in fuel costs over its lifetime. That's not much, but reducing dependence on foreign oil and fight climate change. Well, that's all changed under the Trump administration. Environmental groups like the Environmental Defense Fund cheered, citing cleaner air and energy security, but automakers weren't convinced, citing sky-high compliance costs and a market where EVs, despite heavier investment, remain pricier and less popular than gasoline-powered vehicles, and they take a loss on every single one, and they can't make that up in volume, and they can't raise the price of the gas-powered vehicles to offset it. A credit trading system let EV makers like Tesla sell excess credits to others, earning billions but adding costs for traditional car makers, who called it unfair, and it is. That's why Elon Musk doesn't care if you remove the $7,500 tax credit, because he's still going to sell vehicles. It's the other car makers who don't want it because they're being forced to sell something that they take a loss on. Now, Duffy's rules challenge this system, aiming for a fairer market. Now, how does this affect you? This isn't just a policy debate. It impacts your next car purchase. Duffy says scrapping Biden's rules will lower production costs, letting automakers offer cheaper vehicles, at least we hope so, especially affordable models for families and small businesses. High CAFE standards drove up prices by requiring costly high-tech like turbochargers and hybrids and making vehicles have so much more than needed, but then to lighten the vehicle also, which doesn't necessarily make them safer. They all had to meet that standard. The Alliance for Automotive Innovation suggests this could revive entry-level vehicles. And I agree, because that's what's missing. Everything that's being available these days is all high trim levels, not entry-level cars around $20,000. And that's a problem for consumers who need a new vehicle. However, less efficient vehicles could mean bigger fuel bills, potentially wiping out the savings. That we don't know yet, because it looks like gasoline prices are going down. Now, the rollback could also expand your choices. Strict standards pushing car makers toward EVs, sidelighting gasoline-powered SUVs and trucks that led to U.S. sales. Well, it actually led to lower U.S. sales. And looser rules might bring more variety, including heavier, safer designs. As data shows, they fare better in crashes, and we certainly don't want anyone in a crash. But environmentalists like Kathleen Garcia of the Sierra Club warn this could limit clean vehicle options, frustrating eco-conscious buyers. But there's a lot of choices out there. You can still buy an EV. They're not going away. She claims that older, less efficient cars are more common if prices drop and may also pose safety risks, creating a complex trade-off. That's not necessarily true. That's not how car makers work. The broader clash is policy meeting politics. This fight goes beyond MPGs. It's a battle of priorities. For Biden, he used CAFE standards to speed up EV adoption, tying it to climate goals, the Green New Deal, and the Inflation Reduction Act, which it didn't, and EV subsidies, of course. And Trump, backed by automakers and oil interests and consumers, see it as government overreach. His January 2025 executive orders, quote, unleashing American energy, and initial rescissions of harmful executive orders directed agencies to ditch the EV mandates and boost fossil fuels. But in reality, it actually helps consumers. He signed the CRA, the Congressional Review Act, which we have covered on our channel, which removes the mandate on a federal level. If each state wants to have the rules, that's fine, but they cannot call the rules for the other 49 states. The timing, you might say, is intriguing. Duffy's rule was hidden and landed amid a public clash between Trump and Tesla's CEO Elon Musk, with Trump suggesting that Musk opposed a budget bill cutting EV tax credits. I call that whole thing kayfabe. Tesla and Elon Musk really don't care about the $7,500 tax credit, because the truth is Tesla owns 60% of the market. If you want an electric vehicle, many people consider Tesla, but there are other options out there that are good as well, even though those brands don't make money. Even though Musk pushed back in a public way, it highlights tensions as EV policies unravel. The EPA, now led by Lee Zeldin, is also rethinking emissions rules on California's 2035 gas ban, signaling a wider retreat from green policies. We're also waiting for the Supreme Court to take away some of the powers from the California Air Resources Board, and then things are about to change. Now, environmentalists are alarmed. Garcia warns weaker standards will raise fuel costs. That's not true. Increased pollution, that may be, but cars are much cleaner now than they've ever been and harm health. You can say anything you want, but the truth is people aren't buying electric vehicles as a mass purchase. They are looking for something that meets their needs, and it doesn't work for everyone, especially across the United States. Now, automakers, however, see relief after struggling with EV investments and sluggish sales. Like I said, they make cool product. That doesn't mean people want it. They got to build what people want. Stellantis, for instance, delayed its electric Ram pickup and doubled down on gasoline-powered models and hybrids post-election, reflecting the industry's shift, which was a smart move. Some brands are waking up. Others are still asleep, like Jaguar, who's still pushing all electric, when other brands like Hyundai are saying, you know what, we're going to offer whatever you want, which is the smartest thing you can do. So what's coming next? Well, Duffy's rule is a starting point. NHTSA will soon propose new standards. We'll be reporting on that, likely easing MPG targets and excluding EVs. Senate plans to eliminate fines could further relax enforcement, giving car makers room to breathe and saving them some money. But legal battles are brewing. Environmental groups may sue, arguing NHTSA must set maximum feasible standards. California's tougher rules could also trigger a federal government versus state of California clash. Of course, we'll report on that. For now, the rollback aligns with Trump's promise of affordability and choice. You get to choose what you want to drive, rather than the federal government telling you what to drive. Fuel economy standards born during the 1970s oil clash remain a flashpoint for energy, economics, and environment. And NHTSA is working with the Department of Transportation to give you options and, of course, allow you to choose what you want to drive. Here's why you should care about this story. It hits your driveway, your budget, and the world you live in. Biden's CAFE rules aimed high, but per Duffy, broke the law by banking on EVs. The Trump rollback could make cars cheaper and give you more options, but it risks higher fuel costs and emissions. But it looks like fuel prices are coming down, as Trump promised. If you want to learn more about this, you can check out Beyond Tailpipe Emissions on the NHTSA website. They'll give you some information on electric vehicles and gasoline vehicles and what's really coming out the tailpipe. Stay tuned for NHTSA's next moves and tell policymakers what matter to you. Whether you love gas, lean on electric, or you ride on hybrid, you deserve the rules that balance cost, choice, and a cleaner future. If you like this video, give it a like and subscribe for more videos like this, and check out our car review channel, Car Smarts. You can support me by buying me a cup of coffee, and if you want even more content, check out the links in the description. I'm Lauren Fix. Thank you so much for watching.